When I moved into the Ashwood apartments, I was looking for one thing: peace. After a rough breakup and a stressful job, I wanted a quiet place where nobody knew me. Apartment 306 seemed perfect. Affordable rent, decent location, and surprisingly quiet. At least, that's what I thought. The first strange thing happened during my second week. I was carrying groceries upstairs when I noticed a woman standing outside apartment 307. She looked to be in her 30s. Dark hair, gray sweater, expressionless face. She was staring at her apartment door, not unlocking it, not moving, just staring. I gave a polite nod. She didn't respond. I figured she was having a bad day. The next morning, I saw her again. Same spot, same clothes, standing outside apartment 307, staring at the door. This time, I said hello. Nothing, not even a blink. Just complete silence. A chill ran through me, but I told myself not to overthink it. People are weird. A week later, things got stranger. Around midnight, I started hearing noises from apartment 307. Soft footsteps, furniture dragging, occasional knocking. Nothing unusual for apartment living. Except for one thing. The apartment was supposed to be vacant. I discovered that by accident. One evening, I was checking my mail when I mentioned my neighbor to the building manager. The woman in 307 seems a little odd. The manager looked confused. What woman? The one who lives next door. His face went pale. Nobody lives in 307. I laughed. He didn't. I'm serious, he said. Apartment 307 has been empty for nearly 3 years. A strange feeling settled in my stomach. I explained what I'd seen. The woman, the noises, the footsteps. The manager shook his head. That's impossible. Then he handed me a master occupancy sheet. Apartment 307, vacant. I stared at the paper. Maybe there was a mistake. Maybe someone had moved in recently. But the manager insisted. Nobody rented that apartment. Nobody had access. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. At 12:43 a.m., I heard footsteps again, directly on the other side of my wall. Slow, steady, back and forth, back and forth. I pressed my ear against the wall. The footsteps stopped instantly. Silence. Then came 3 knocks. Knock, knock, knock. From the other side. I froze. Every hair on my arm stood up. A few seconds later, I heard a woman's voice. Soft, barely audible. Help me. I jumped away from the wall, my heart racing. The voice had sounded terrified, desperate. I grabbed my phone and stepped into the hallway. Apartment 307's door stood slightly open, just an inch. Darkness filled the gap. I stared at it, trying to decide whether to call the police. Then the door slowly creaked shut by itself. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I asked other tenants about apartment 307. Most avoided the topic. One elderly resident finally agreed to talk. Her hands trembled as she spoke. There was a woman. My pulse quickened. What happened to her? Nobody knows. Years ago, a tenant named Sarah lived in apartment 307. One evening, neighbors heard screaming. Police arrived. But when they entered the apartment, nobody was there. No Sarah. No signs of a struggle. Nothing. She simply vanished. The apartment remained empty ever since, at least officially. That night, I installed a camera in my doorway. I wanted proof, something rational, something explainable. The next morning, I reviewed the footage. Everything seemed normal. Until 2:17 a.m. A figure emerged from apartment 307, the same woman, gray sweater, dark hair, expressionless face. She turned toward my door and stood there, watching. For nearly 40 minutes, not moving, not blinking, just staring. Then she slowly leaned closer to my camera. Her face filled the screen. I nearly dropped my phone. Because her eyes weren't normal, they were completely black. No whites, no pupils, just darkness. The footage ended with static. The camera shut off immediately afterward. I took the video to the building manager. His hand shook while watching it. Without saying a word, he unlocked a cabinet. Inside were dozens of folders, police reports, maintenance records, tenant complaints. Every file mentioned apartment 307. Every file described the same woman, and every witness eventually moved out or disappeared. I decided to leave that very day. I packed everything, booked a hotel, and planned to return later for the rest. As I carried my final box downstairs, I looked back. Apartment 307's door was open. The woman stood inside, watching me. For the first time, she smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who knew something I didn't. I left without looking back. The following week, I learned something horrifying. The building had no apartment 307. Not anymore. Records showed it had been permanently removed during renovations 20 years ago. The hallway should have gone directly from apartment 306 to apartment 308. There was never supposed to be a 307. I thought it was a clerical error. Until I looked at my photos. Every picture I had taken inside the hallway showed apartment 306. Apartment 308. Nothing in between. No 307. No extra door. No sign that it had ever existed. Yet I remembered it perfectly. The door. The woman. The camera footage. Everything. A month later, I received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a single photograph. It showed the hallway. Apartment 306, apartment 308, and standing between them, the woman in the gray sweater. On the back was a handwritten message, 3 words, I still exist. I never returned to Ashwood Apartments, but sometimes, late at night, I wake up with the feeling that someone is standing outside my bedroom door, waiting, watching, smiling, and every time I check, for a brief second, I swear I see the number 307.